Ah, white petals! The botanical watercolourist's nemesis. But they needn't be. Let me show you how to handle white flowers with ease and achieve a realistic but delicate result. Hi, I'm Anna Mason. Welcome to Nature Studio TV, here to help you become the artist you want to be. If you've ever struggled to paint white flowers before, you'll know how challenging it can be to balance the tones and get them looking natural and realistic. But if you stick to the simple rules I'm going to show you in this mini class, you can't go far wrong. To demonstrate these golden rules, I'm going to walk you through how I painted some white daisies in watercolour. And for fun, I'm using a limited palette of 6 paints. This is a quick overview, but if you'd like to paint these daisies with full step-by-step guidance, this daisy painting is one of hundreds of long-format video classes available in my online art school and community, Nature Studio. Let's take a look. Starting with a faint outline drawing, which is the first golden rule, so your lines won't later be visible through the pale paint, I used a very dilute grey paint and my largest brush to cover the petals everywhere except the very lightest areas. I allowed that to totally dry, then using the same watery paint consistency, applied a second layer to make a subtle tonal adjustment wherever the petals appeared the same tone and hue or darker than the initial layer. Once the second layer was completely dry, I went down a brush size and made one more round of these subtle adjustments with the same pale dilute grey. Rule 2 is to keep the paint super watery so as to preserve the paper colour, which is where the brightness comes from when you're painting white petals in watercolour. I then sought to match to the palest areas in the flower centres, which were a bright yellow. I placed a reasonably thick layer of this colour over the whole of each flower centre, working within the pencil lines to achieve a nice crisp edge. Once I'd applied a watery version of the lightest greens in the stems, it was time to introduce the darkest tones in the entire painting, which were the shadows at the bases of the flower centres. Once both ends of the tonal range are established, it becomes easier to judge how dark to take the midtones. That's because the way we perceive tone is relative to what's around it. Rule 3 is to establish the darkest tones early on. As I painted the centre, I moved along the tonal range, adding in the next darkest colours and creating detail and texture. This was a bit fiddly, but the bigger you work and the more detailed your outline drawing is, the easier it is. With a more orange-yellow mix and ensuring the paper was dry, I applied this colour to a broader area of the flower centres, leaving a few lighter gaps popping through. Then I got into making tonal adjustments to the centres, gradually darkening tone by tone, always making sure the paper was dry and trying to keep the marks crisp. This juggling act takes a while, especially as there was so much texture and detail to build up, but the process of looking back and forth between the painting and reference can feel deeply meditative, especially when you trust the process and have faith that the painting will come together in the end. I carefully darkened a few areas of petal closest to the centre, then repeated the whole process to paint the other 2 daisy centres. It was now clear the white petals needed to be darkened, but next I painted in the stems so I'd be able to judge how much darker to take the petals in relation to the entire composition. Starting with the darks, I kept my hand steady and used the green paint to define the petal edges and build up stripy detail. Painting in lines and adjusting the hue where it changed, I slowly darkened the stems in layers, always allowing the paper to dry and taking care to leave some gaps through to the layer beneath in lighter areas. When those had dried, at last it was time to revisit the petals and bring them back into tonal balance. I cleaned my palette and brushes and refreshed my water, before making a very watery grey-brown mix and gently applying it to anywhere in the petals which was too light. When you're working on pale subjects, it's far better to be overcautious. So rule 4 is water down more than you think you need to and work in several very subtle layers. I was being extra careful when painting next to dark areas, as I didn't want them to bleed into the pale paint, which can easily happen. So that's rule 5, be extremely careful darkening pale areas next to dark colours. I kept taking a step back to assess the painting as a whole, as well as looking up close for areas that needed to be neatened up. I then took a strategic tea break and with fresh eyes came back for one last round of tonal adjustments in the whole picture. When a painting is nearly finished, it can be tempting to skip this stage, but relaxing into this last step, finding details to add and areas to darken is what takes the realism to the next level. Once I stopped noticing any, I knew the painting was finished. A full-length video class of these delicate daisies, which comes with an outline drawing you can trace A reference photo and a list of paints is included with membership to my online school and community, Nature Studio. If you've enjoyed this mini class, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, then pop over to naturestudio.com where you can sign up for a free class and find a whole heap of free resources to help you capture the beauty of nature on your paper. Thanks for watching, and if you want to find out more about Nature Studio, keep watching. If you haven't taken your free full-length watercolour class yet, you're missing out. Step by step, I'll guide you through painting a 3D pear that looks real enough to pick up and eat. I'll explain not just what to do, but why, so you'll learn a reliable method you can use for painting all kinds of subjects that make your heart sing. You'll discover that you're already a better artist than you thought, and like thousands of others who painted their free pear before you, this discovery might just ignite a spark in you that wants to take this further. Which is where Nature Studio membership comes in. Joining gives you access to hundreds more classes that'll help you develop your skills and grow as an artist. And in addition to the classes, when you join, you become part of a global community of like-minded creatives who can support you and offer you feedback if and when you need it. Get the free pear class now and enjoy discovering wherever it takes you next.